In this segment of History in 5, we will cover ancient Egypt. The first theme I would like to cover is geography. Probably the most important thing to remember about Egypt is based around where the civilization all began, which is also one of the most frequently asked questions on the regions. Egypt and the other early civilizations that we will be learning about seem to have one common characteristic, one core commonality, and that is they all developed around river valleys. That's right, river valleys. Should I say it again?
River valleys, river valleys, river valleys.
Egypt was developed in the Nile River Valley. Have you heard of the Nile River before? Most likely you have, because not only is it the largest river in Africa, but it is also the largest river in the world. Let's take a quick look at the geography in Egypt, because we often associate pyramids and deserts with Egypt, which is good, but the Nile forms a large delta as it enters the Mediterranean Sea. This delta provided life. A delta is formed because as a river's speed slows down, sediments in the water are deposited, which produce a very rich and highly nourished soil, and that is great for growing crops. The early Egyptians settled around the south portion of the delta near the present-day city of Cairo. Yearly monsoons, which are seasonal winds, would also bring heavy rains which flooded the Nile and replenished the soil. So the Nile River was a perfect location for an early civilization to form. And the Egyptians, well, they took advantage of the natural resources they found. The second thing we will discuss is social advancements of the Egyptians. Growing crops and domesticating animals allowed people like the Egyptians to produce food in higher quantities. They no longer had to follow roaming herds as a means of survival. As their survival needs were easier to come by, they were able to spend more time on other things that led to the advancement of their civilization. A few things the Egyptians developed were a calendar, a writing system, and medical procedures that allowed them to learn more about the functions of the human body. The calendar they created is surprisingly close to the one we use today. Their calendar was based on moon phases and had 360 days. The year was broken down into 3 seasons, which corresponded with the cycles of the Nile. The 3 seasons lasted 4 months each, and there were 30 days of each month. In addition to the 360 days, there were 5 additional days at the beginning of the year, which were a celebration period. They would typically have feasts during that time. 360 plus 5, well, you can see the resemblance to our calendar. Most of what we know about Egypt is because of the hieroglyphics. If it wasn't for hieroglyphics, we'd probably know as much about Egyptians as we know about the dinosaurs. Hieroglyphs were composed of an alphabet system and pictures to record information. It was what the Egyptians used as their form of writing. In 1799, Napoleon, his troops, as they were conquering Egypt, made a significant discovery in the Rosetta Stone, which is a tablet containing 3 languages of the same text, which included Greek, and Greek was already widely used. So after thousands of years of attempting to translate the Egyptian alphabet, we were now able to put meaning to their symbols. Lastly, the Egyptians needed a belief system and a government to unify the people. They believed in many gods, which is called polytheism. A couple of the most significant gods were the god of the Nile. He was called Hapi, and the sun god. He was called Re, or Ra. Their leaders were called pharaohs. They acted much like a king. The pharaoh was the closest thing to a living god in the eyes of the Egyptians. They were also so powerful they had pyramids built to honor themselves. And the tombs inside the pyramids were embellished with gold and other valuables that they would need for their afterlife. The pharaohs were also mummified to preserve their bodies. This allowed the Egyptians to learn about the human body and to increase their medical knowledge. They were able to develop medicines to prevent illnesses, and that made their culture much stronger. Well, that's this week's History in 5.